Hello and welcome to patch 3 or 13.4. My name is Chris and Jason could not join us this or today. He had to catch up on his sleep or something. But I am here with my friend Nate.
Greetings, everyone, trolls and regular law players alike.
And we got a pretty short one today. We don't have any even like mini reworks or anything too crazy. There is some funny stuff that I look forward to talking to. Anyway, it's great to have you here, Nate.
Well, thank you.
All right, let's get right into it. First thing, before we get to the meat and potatoes, there is some nonsense here at the top I'd like to talk to, some little stuff
Sure.
where we go through. You see where it talks about like the champion experience, which is
That's
definitely
where I
definitely
stopped scrolling.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely not something that you see get changed every day.
No, I don't
Uh,
know the last time that was changed. I know the comeback system was kind of invented at some point, but other than that, I don't remember it changing ever. I don't
yeah,
know.
so I think I'm pretty happy. Champions give a like shitload of experience,
Yeah.
especially if they have a bunch of levels and stuff. I think comeback mechanics are actually pretty healthy because just makes you have to play that more vigilantly when you're ahead.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I'm all for like the more brain cells at work and stuff.
Mhm. Punishing sloppy play. Like there's times where you'll have a team, people you don't know, and they're kind of arguing about, like, oh, we can't win, and I'll say like they're not that good. They just have like more resources than we do. Like they're not making the best plays. Like they didn't take, a turret or Baron or whatever after the last fight. Like they're not great. Like we'll be fine. So yeah, I like comeback mechanics as well.
Although, while we're talking about comeback stuff, I got to be honest, I've never even noticed like anything happening when you get one of those comeback turrets or objectives or whatever. So hopefully this will be a little more impactful.
Yeah,
Yeah, I wouldn't even know it was happening if it didn't like make sounds and stuff.
sure, sure. If it didn't tell you on the screen or like the shutdown gold, things like that. Yeah,
Well, the shutdown at least it says it and stuff.
right, right. It gives you a flat number.
All right, let's go down to Ari, who's been in flux like the last 2 years. Hopefully, she'll remain relatively stagnant going forward. And we got a buff to some armor, some health, and then another buff to her ultimate, which has been buffed
Yeah.
several times over the last 2 years.
Hmm.
And I actually am all for Ari buffs just because I kind of think of her a lot like LeBlanc, where she has to
Hmm.
just be so incredibly active to
Yes.
contribute because she doesn't really have, AOE and stuff. She's basically
Right.
an assassin. So she's so pick dependent. So I'm all for
Hmm.
this. I'm still shocked that they just gave her ultimate more stacks on takedown, but I think that's pretty cool. And I'll never mind an Ari buff to be honest, because I just feel like she's good, but she's unimpactful. I think.
Yeah, I find the with LeBlanc and Ari that when they roam a lot and show up and murder you, like top bot wherever, you're like, God damn, that champ is good. But then when they don't, and they're just like, yeah, I'm just like farming really well in my lane, it's like, well, we're gonna lose in the late game. Cool, thanks. Um, yeah, so yeah, I like buffs, and she's not an easy champ to play. She's not the hardest, but um, bad Ari players are easy to recognize, and you might as well have a Teemo because they're gonna do nothing.
I think
So.
she is kind of easy to play. I think she's way harder to play
They
than LeBlanc,
will?
though. I think LeBlanc has all the problems Ari has, but way worse.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Um, I just think that it's kind of like a skill gap. It's not the skill gap of like we talk about Zed a lot. It's not quite that. But I think the knowing when to charm, like the using your ult not just to run away, like to zip around team fights and get good angles and things like that, takes a fair amount. And even just know when to roam as well, like game knowledge more than just your micro. So, I don't know. Yeah, I like buffs though, because like you said, she doesn't dominate games rarely. So I'm
All
in.
right, let's move on to one of the more hilarious changes. And you heard last patch about my big rant about how 10 years ago this was considered extremely unhealthy. And over
Yes.
the course of like 2 years, his pulverize and headbutt, his, what is this? It's his QW, right? Yeah, it's his QW.
Yes.
I forgot because his E used to be his heal ages past.
Right. Right.
Anyway, so like 10, 12 years ago, for like 2 years, these all got nerfed into the ground, but suddenly everything's It truly is like a testament to the game that everything just comes around and goes around and nothing stays the same forever. But now we're getting back into like I think this is actually what it was like in the alpha. Basically, this is the ratios on his stuff. The only thing that could have oh, my bad. I actually got these confused. I was gonna say the only way this could be dumber is if they put the 100% on pulverize or headbutt instead of pulverize, but they actually did put it on headbutt.
Yeah.
Headbutt's the thing that can't miss. So
Yes, just click. Yep.
yeah, yeah. This is pretty funny. I feel like this
gotta dial that distance for the old headbutt pulverize wombo. I would like to submit that one of the biggest reasons I don't play Alistair is that I think that pulverize and headbutt should be switched because so many other champs have their gap close on what is it, Q, and then pulverize I think should be W because I think currently it's pulverize is Q and headbutt's W. Whatever it is, I think it should be the opposite, and I can't handle that it's not, and I refuse to learn him.
Most champs that have a mobility spell, it's on their E, and most champs like spam ability is on their Q.
Yeah, I think of like a Nautilus, like throwing the hook, or is it Thresh also with the hook, like that kind of like I'm just thinking of as a support. That my Q is gonna like do some sort of gap close, but I don't know. I don't like his button layout. Won't play him. Want to? Won't.
And then we got a buff to his passive heal, which I think is the only good thing, honestly, about this patch. These are such crazy buffs to his AP ratios. This is gonna like make people think about playing Alistair like mid top and jungle. This
absolutely.
is like the level of Cheese Lord with like Lich Bane and Ludens. This is gonna, this is just pretty silly.
Hey, I've seen AP Malphites after we talked about it. Many AP Malphites.
I just don't understand why they have to take him in this direction. You don't really see him a lot. He's not very popular. So many other things have more functionality than him. I feel like they just would have been... He would have been so much better served by just lowering the cooldown on Pulverite and Headbutt and making him more disruptive more often, or giving his ultimate an additional synergy so he had more damage reduction in his ultimate. Just make the things that make Alistair... remotely
more
unique,
Alistair.
More Alistair,
yeah, or have his ult lower his cooldowns, or
they could have every time he displaces someone, it drops the cooldown of his ult by like 5 seconds or something, or 2 seconds.
Yeah, or his armor and MR or health like lower the cooldowns or something where it's like, hey, build this dude tanky and you'll get to just like cause trouble the whole time.
Yeah, or health, awesome. Armor, MR, ability haste, all those cool things.
Like that'd be dope.
This is just so counter. I don't know.
Yeah, it's disappointing.
That's why things like this are why I make fun of Riot so much.
Sure, and even other than my problem with Alistair, none of those changes make me want to pick him. You know, obviously that's the real problem, the real villain of the story. But those buffs don't incentivize me whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm sure Jason would have like a brilliant insight about how this is like to counteract something in the meta, but I just don't see it ever being a good idea. It just takes him further away from what he's supposed to be, you know?
Right.
Okay, next up we got a Mumu.
Mm-hmm.
And just some straight up nerfs here. I don't really think they're warranted specifically.
I read the reasoning, and it was that he beats up on new players too easily. It's his pub stomp strength.
Really? A Mumu?
Yes. Yep.
Shit.
I don't know if that's jungle or support, because support of Mumu is very effective. With the old glacial augment.
Dude, his
and now that he has 2 bandage tosses.
Man, his little tears are weak as shit, man.
They are, and they got even weaker. Now it's like, you know, if you forget to turn them on, like I never, never happened to me, but other people who are terrible, forget to turn them on for a whole team fight. Now you won't even notice. So
that being said, I think the max level damage was 1.6 for like 10 years, and then it was briefly put up to 2. So this is probably just a reversion of that.
Putting them back. I guess there are more items now that if you want to do like AP and Mumu instead of tank and Mumu, that maybe it'll balance out. Because there are some pretty gnarly magic items that you can suit up a Mumu with.
Yeah. So they've nerfed something. All that AP stuff on him too, though. Oh well.
He can have the 2 items, the helmet and Leandries, though, if you want double, percent.
Yeah, but they've been nerfing the burn on those too.
That's true. Probably for Amumu's sake.
I feel like he's not even that popular anymore, to be honest.
Yeah.
I keep hearing about this support of Mumu. I've yet to see it, and I've been playing a lot more recently.
Tell me to pick him next time we play. I'll do it just for you.
I feel like I mean it's probably just as good as like support Malphite. You know, you just wait to your 6 and then you're like, oh, I got the cheese now. So
I think he harasses early a lot better, especially with like the double AD carry lane. That if you just bandage toss tantrum somebody at like level 2, um, and then he also has the as a passive damage reduction or whatever that you can punk the double AD carry lane if they don't realize how fast you can kill them with your partner. I don't know.
is that right? I have seen the double 80 carry thing a few times, and it
I see it all the time.
seems to always flop.
As long as that, because I'm playing support, as long as my AD carry knows like when it's go time, we murder them and they look stupid. But if they get any sort of lead, whether it be farm or kills, then once both of them have damage items and they're hitting you with their like poke, it's just really really unpleasant to play against.
Oh, the other day I did lane against a Quinn support. That was
Oh,
interesting. It was
interesting.
pretty
It's usually
dumb though.
Ash for me. A lot of Ash volleys. Just like eat 400 Ash volleys while MF double ups you. It's old.
Okay, we got some meaningless nerfs to Anivia, and then we got
Mhm.
some juicy buff, I guess, for Aphelios. This is just the thing he puts points in because he doesn't have a real passive when he levels up. When he levels up, he can put points into extra flat attack damage, lethality, or attack speed, and he
Mhm.
can choose which one of those to max first. Instead of putting points into all of his abilities because of the way his absolutely convoluted kit works, he just
Yeah.
puts points into this instead. So I don't know. Aphelios has been nerfed a million times, so I'm fine with this. I don't really think he's very good at all.
I've never seen him do spectacularly well. I've seen him do fine, never better than fine. And I, to this day, don't understand entirely what his kit does, but I also refuse to put any time into learning. So I just let him be a mystery, and I'm like, man, I can't wait to see what this guy does this game, whether he's on my team or their team. I'm just like, it's going to be exciting anyway about it because
Yeah,
whatever he
not that
does,
exciting. I got even
yeah.
when he first came out, and there was a couple broken or overpowered interactions between his like flamethrower and his ultimate. I
Mhm.
feel like even then, I think he was probably fine at that point because he needed like the perfect setup to get these like ridiculous like burst combos.
Sure,
Basically, all 5 of the enemy champions would have to like all get marked by his ultimate. He'd have to
stay in the
have
line.
Infernum in his offhand and Calibrum in his main hand to do the crazy like AOE blow up thing. It's just he needs so much setup, you know.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okie dokie. Now we got about a million bug changes for Reliant Soul here. I just want to point out one, and
Mm,
that's if we go to Breath of Light. This is actually the very first thing I abused when I played him when he first came out in a practice game against Trundlebot.
mm,
I
mhm.
took Conqueror because I was like, well, a lot of like kind of extended fight for a long time champions kind of like Conqueror. So
Yep.
I thought the first thing I would try on him was Conqueror. And little bit did I know how goofy it would be. And it turns out you could actually just tap his Q 5 times in like 1 second essentially and fully stack Conqueror on him when he first came out. And that
Mm,
persisted for like a couple weeks now. Now they finally put an end to that with this first thing that says new effect at the top where it's placed on a 1 second cooldown.
sure. Yeah, you
That
can't
was
just rapid fire cancel. Yeah.
I can't believe that was actually in the game for like 2 weeks. That was pretty funny. You just said "Bup, bup, 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 bup," and then you get it right away. It was hella stupid. All right, that's the only one of consequence because I'm sure I wasn't the only non-Korean or Korean person to abuse that or whatever.
Sure, sure,
The
sure.
rest of this stuff is just quality of life garbage. Now we get into
Yeah.
a really fun one. This is one of the champions that's near and dear to my heart, Azir. Nobody
You do love
plays
Azir.
him. Everyone respects him. You never see him. Everyone thinks he's cool though,
Oh yeah.
and I love Azir. He's such a fun champion. I love playing him bot sometimes instead of an AD carry because he basically is an AD carry for the most part. The way he scales and does damage, he might as well be. And you can get away with that a lot bot because his range is basically better than Caitlyn. So you can't
Oh
really.
yeah.
It's not really bad
Oh,
actually.
far soldier poke is
Yeah,
ridiculous.
everyone will think you're trolling, and then it's actually good.
Yeah. Well, there's also just the unspoken agreement that you never go near Azir in turret because he's going to wombo ult you into the turret and you'll never leave. So
Yeah,
And I
so
was like, yeah, well, yeah, don't go over there. Don't go over there. No, I don't care how much health he has. Like, it's happened to all of us. Don't
first
do
thing
it.
I want to talk about is how most of these changes are actually nerfs.
Okay.
Oh, I'm my bad. Actually, they're nerfs, or they might as well be nerfs. First thing I want to talk about, yeah, it takes him longer to get his extra soldiers out. His basically ammo thing on his W on a rise before he generates another soldier.
Sure.
That's that's obviously a nerf because as a champion that does perhaps the most highest magic damage DPS in the game, only rivaled by like Rise and Cassiopeia and Corki. He needs that is a big nerf for him to be. He needs to get the soldiers out very consistently.
Quicker. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that is a nerf. But one second, I'm not gonna split too many hairs about. Now let's go to Shifting Sands, and this
Mhm.
one is going to. You're not going to feel this one at all because it's extremely uncommon you even damage someone with the damage component of this ability. Back when he was first released, if you ran into someone with Shifting Sands, and this is his dash, not the thing where he repositions his Q, this is where he
Okay.
dashes to his soldiers.
Yeah.
Back in the old days, when you ran into someone, you would knock them up with this, and that was one
Oh,
of the
wow.
first things they took out of his kit. Now,
Sure.
all you do is you just stop. You stop and you bump into him, and that actually does damage. So it's very awkward. It's very goofy. I wish they'd give him the knockup back, even if it was like only quarter of a second knockup or something.
Right, right, right.
Like
Interrupt,
even
interrupt
worse.
knockup.
Yeah, even
Yeah.
worse than Xin Zhao's Q or something.
Sure.
Yeah. So anyway, you never use this as a damage component, and you very rarely actually collide with someone. So these changes go completely like they're absolutely insignificant. What I would have liked to have seen is a huge buff to the shield that this gives you, and then make the shield only last for like 1 second or something.
Okay.
Give him a huge shield, but only for like
A
one
little more
second.
tech. Yeah.
I think it actually only lasts like 2 seconds, but it would have been cool if it was even more clutch.
Sure.
Okay, now we get into the really fun one. This ability's damage has been buffed several times over like the last 4 years,
Mhm.
and if you played anyone that's played any amount of Azir will know that it is it's such a risky attempt to use this offensively that a lot of times you just save it to peel for yourself since you do so
Oh, yeah.
much just by chopping people up with the soldiers that it's
Sure.
kind of almost a trick to go out of your way to make a big play with this. So you got to be so sparingly with trying to make the big play, the Shurima shuffle,
Right.
But this is getting like it's getting really strong, these numbers. This was super weak when it first came out. It was like less than 100. It was only like a 40 or 50% EP ratio at one point. It only did like 300 or like rank 3 or something. Now this is getting so bursty that it's gonna incentivize people to want to make that big play. And I'll
Sure.
give up all the other bad things in this. I'm calling the Shifting Sands change bad because it's so unimpactful and you'll never even see it come to fruition. But this is really cool. It's just I think it'll really incentivize people to try to go for the big play. Not to mention, he's very bad early on. This is really going to help his like level 6 1v1 chances, which
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah.
he doesn't honestly win against many champions because his DPS takes a long time to come online.
Yeah. And to make a reference to StarCraft 2, which I don't play, but the watching the top level people use the Protoss to make little walls to separate people's units.
The
When I see the
sentries.
best, yeah, when I see the best Azirs, that's what happens is that they use their, wall of dudes to separate the fight long enough, and so it's like, I mean, damage cool, but it's like, oh man, if you're changing the battle landscape, like a good or bad Jarvan ult, where it's like, oh, you have
Oh,
separated
dude,
things that matter.
I am a huge StarCraft 2 pro scene fan. Huge. I know exactly.
That's
That's
all
the
for you.
sentry in the force field. That's what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Oh yeah. Watching the people like drop it down, you're just like, man, that looked really effective. I don't play this game, but well done.
Amazing,
Galaxy.
amazing pro
Yeah.
scene that game has. I love it. I love StarCraft 1
So,
also.
anyway,
Okay.
but yeah, the tech of it, but yeah, more damage. Like, why not? Why not? Azir's dope. Like, even when he murders me, I'm like, I'm down. It's cool. It's cool, buddy. I forgive you.
What do you think about those changes? Because I talked a lot about nothing.
For Azir, no, I like it. I don't play him very much. I haven't played him in a really long
Ugh,
time, so I didn't
nobody
remember
does.
that Shifting Sands even damaged people. I use it to dodge skill shots or close gaps, to dump more crap out.
It's a little bit of
Um,
everything.
yeah. So, but I mean, sure, yeah. Like I don't mind him being buffed because same kind of thing that he's not an easy champ to do well with. I don't think he's the hardest, but at the same time, he's not just
Oh
click
no,
to win.
I think he's one of the hardest champs in the game.
To play well, I think yes. Um, yeah, it's one of those like when you see somebody that's new to Zir, it's obvious. You're just like, oh, why are they on my team? But
Who do you think are like the three hardest champs in the game to play?
are we talking like a barrier to not looking stupid, or like the like people are like wow, like you are a real one, as people say to me sometimes
Let's
when I play champs I
say
don't suck at, or both.
ease of becoming competent with.
Easy becoming the hardest.
Who are your top three?
Um, man, that is on the spot. I have no time for research. Um, hmm. I will submit that I think Zed is hard to learn to not look stupid, and the expectations that you will be God level Zed are always there. So
You're right
he's in my
about the
top. Yeah,
expectations. I think he's actually the easiest assassin to play.
to play well, though, I guess it depends what you're up
Nah, he
against.
is
But
dummy easy to use his ultimate.
his ultimate, yes, but he has skill shots and like the using the ghosts properly, like to jump around and
Yeah.
do the stuff like to not look dumb. Um, yeah. Um, do. I've seen people that were miserably bad with Kled that confused me because I never had problems with him. But when have seen terrible players, like of the top 20 worst players I've ever seen, like four of them were Kled players. Thing is, they didn't understand the mount remount game and just got, like dunked. Maybe it's them just not reading. And then I would say the squishy supports after that, like playing a Seraphine and not getting annihilated early um, is hard if you haven't played this. Once you've played the game a lot of those champs just become easier for you because you're like, I'm playing a champ that has crazy low health and no resistances. I will stay back and push these buttons. But when players are fairly new, I think those low health pool champs with skill shots just get wrecked out the gate.
Mm. I
I'll
would
think on it though.
say like Cassiopeia, Azir, and Yasuo.
Yeah, I think Yas is easier to be competent with than Zed though, as far as
Mm.
like getting to the level of like
He,
not embarrassing yourself.
if you actually play, he has like so little to actually work with. He has to make it. He has to go so far with such a limited kit,
Yeah, but with
which
your
is like what they
itemization, you can
completely
just
corrected with Yone's release, where he has like lots of
sure,
tools, but he's like just as
right.
strong in every way. Yeah,
Cassiopeia, I will say, played quite a bit in the early years, and yes, very hard
she's
to not
extremely
look dumb.
yeah, extremely mechanically
Yeah,
intensive to play.
yeah.
All right, let's move on to Cho'Gath, and we got a extremely generous buff to his Q, and like in the old days when everyone had an ability whose base damage would go up to like 280 or 300, this is
Hmm.
basically just not a thing anymore.
Yeah,
Champions base abilities do not go to 300 anymore. They rarely even go to like 250. But not only is
sure.
this 300, but now it's going up to 320. That being said, most people do not play Cho'Gath AP anymore now that his
Right,
ultimate scales with health instead of just AP
right.
a few years ago, and he gets infinite stacks and he doesn't lose them anymore like he used to for the longest time. So
Yep.
this is
Oh yeah.
probably okay. I don't really think it's the hardest ability in the game to dodge, to be honest.
No, it's in team fights. It's crazy good though, just because it's large.
It is
Um,
good.
Cho'Gath, I would say one of the easiest champs to learn to play because it's like he just gets his health back all the time, and you can jungle him and just never go home. I guess jungling's easier now too, though, so that's not as much of a
I
concern as
would
it used
say
to be.
now
But
he's very easy because his scaling cannot be like slowed down
right,
essentially.
interrupted. Yep. Yeah,
Whereas
in the old
before he
days.
would lose like half his stacks or all his stacks,
Uh-huh.
and he could only get like 6 or 7 max back then.
Right.
But now
He
he
had the
gets
Magi's
infinite.
of a
Yeah,
health. Right. Um, yeah, but I mean, it's cool that like it's kind of the opposite of when we talk about incentivizing like AP Alistair. This is like, oh no, no, no. There's no reason to build an AP item. Just keep building tank items and make your team
yeah,
happy with how big you get. Because
yeah.
anytime
And
there's an item that makes a champ bigger, I'm in. Like even if I shouldn't buy it, I'm like, ooh, my
I
model gets larger. Cool.
I feel like there's no reason to go AP when you have a base ability's damage gets as high as a lot of champions' ultimates do at like rank 1.
Sure.
For instance, like Ezreal's is like 350 at rank 1. It's pretty close.
Yeah.
And then with his silence here, his W, this is actually funny. A couple people I was playing an ARAM with were actually bitching the whole game about his silence cost so much mana. And this, I'm pretty sure, has been unchanged for like 11 or 12 years or something like this. And now they're just now reducing it to like, I guess it's normal. Be honest, he's probably one of the only people. Yeah, I think Malzahar also has an AoE silence.
Yeah.
But this is one of the few champs in the game that still has a silence, which is something I don't think they've given another champion in a very long time.
Yeah, not a super long time.
Since they
I
took
will
away,
say,
like, Caston LeBlanc silence.
right. I will say that in playing Cho'Gath top for a long time, his screen, like you couldn't spam it, even if you had the old Catalyst, in the old days, and even with his mana return, um, killing creeps and stuff, that it was just super high. But at the same time, you can't dodge the scream. Like it's a skill shot, but it's not. It's a cone. Like it hits every time. And I think it costs so much because if you just ranked the scream and just spammed it on people in top lane, it would, if they didn't have any MR, it made them very sad. So um, I understand why it costs so much. I don't know if this is a big enough change, like they changed it at the top end, not the low end. So I
Yeah,
can't
it
imagine.
scales really well too, and the silence duration also scales with levels.
Yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
think it goes
No,
to
it's a
like
great ability.
2.5 seconds, which is way better than Malzahar's.
Sure.
I think Malzahar's used to be like 3.5, something crazy. Yeah, silences used to be so crazy a long time ago.
Oh yeah. Well, now you have those kit-based champs that don't have just buttons, like they can't just wander around and do their thing. So you just turn them off and they don't do anything. Unless you're Master Yi.
Okay, next up we got Elise, one of the forgotten champions of the game. I'd be actually fine if she got a rework. I always felt like she was such an awkward champion,
Actually,
but
I want to
apparently
change my
she's too
answer.
good.
Change my answer to barrier to not looking stupid. Elise number one. I just remembered all the
That's
other games I played where
yeah.
I was like, "What are you doing? Why are you? What? Yeah,
That's a different type of list. Yeah, it's
yeah,
champions that make you look dumb.
yeah." If you don't know exactly what you're doing, or even when you're like, "No, I did the right thing," it just made me look stupid because they saw it coming or whatever. Um, yeah, man.
There was like one champion that I always think of. I feel like dumb people always play like Fiddlesticks and like Karthus and stuff like that.
And Master Yi, the easiest
Yeah,
champ in
the
the
thing
world.
is though, even if you don't know what you're doing, he like does super well half the time.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got a bunch of nerfs here for this champ, and her Q in Spider form is arguably like her best ability because it's like her only like consistent source of damage that's actually
Mhm.
meaningful because it does missing health damage, which does a
Right.
lot, and that's too good.
That's a pretty big nerf. Like the base damage is like it's not like, oh, it took it down 5. It's just to line it up with the other abilities. It's like, no, it's like 60 at max rank. You're like, ooh,
What would
that's
really make me happy
that's
is if
pretty
they
rare.
gave her a bunch of like what do you call it? A bunch of incentives in her spider form to build more tanky. I know
Yeah,
it's kind of counter to. She's basically a burst mage, essentially.
right.
She just waits into a bush and hopes that she can line up everything.
And when you try to get away, she lands on you and then runs away. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish. In the old days, when she turned to spider form, she used to gain a few extra like resistances and shit, and that used to also
Hmm.
be true of Nidalee. They both have
Hmm.
lost that. There was a time where AD Nidalee wasn't retarded, so
Interesting.
I wish you could do a little bit more things with Elise other than just be. I feel like she was even like a bruiser at one point. Now I feel like she's become
Yeah.
so irrelevant. You have to play her as if you're playing like Viger or LeBlanc or something.
Yeah.
you know.
Oh yeah. No, yeah.
It's,
You're playing Shaco as Elise. You just can't turn invisible. It's just like I need to come to the fight and clean up. Like I can't be here for the actual
I don't
fight.
even think
Like
she's good at that. She's just good at the you happen to go into a bush that I was in so I can line up all my situational damage. You know?
yeah. I guess I've seen with the good players, like people that try to get out of fights or dropping back in the AD carry, like when they're out of position, like on the back line or whatever. I see it happen, but that's the dream, not the everyday. So
Another wish thing I wish she was way better at is if her like W in spider form was a lot stronger. And that's what gives her all of like the massive on hit magic damage and attack speed. to like kind of follow up her burst combo. If that did enough to like stand apart from needing like AP, I think she could also be like kind of interesting to build other stuff. I feel like she's just way too locked into like a glass cannon build at the moment.
Sure.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if she was on some secret list to get reworked in like the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, she's. I don't know. I guess the champs we've seen reworked lately were so unpopular, like Aurelion Sol, for example. But I do still see some Elises where like I hadn't seen Aurelion Sol in like years, plural, before he got reworked. Like I almost forgot he was in the game. So
Just
yeah.
waiting for that Ivern rework.
Oh man, he needs one real bad.
Okie
I will
dokie.
submit Ivern might have needed one when he was launched because I don't know if he's ever been
I
real
don't,
fun to play.
I don't think Aurelion Sol was much better when he launched either.
No.
He was definitely better than what he was for like the last 2 years,
Sure.
where they made his W no longer a toggle, so it just turns on and off, which is kind of annoying. I don't know what they were thinking. It's almost like, well, if we do this absolutely damning change to his consistent DPS, we'll have to rework him eventually. Yeah, that was the goofiest.
Tinfoil hat plan. That was a while back.
Yeah. Okay, let's scroll all the way down. We got lots of bugs. Okay, we got Jarvan here. Obviously, this was probably going to get nerfed with how people play him like Talon these days instead of like a tank.
Yep.
But considering for like 11 years this ability didn't scale with anything, can't really complain that they nerfed the AD ratio on it or even the cooldown now that it has scaling. And they
A
didn't
couple
touch
patches ago,
the health scaling on this, even though you don't see it here. They never touched that, so he still has the health scaling on this, and
Okay.
when he is next to enemy champions.
So didn't a couple patches ago we talk about how Jarvan was getting buffs to be incentivized to not be tanky? I feel like we talked about that not that long ago, and so this is kind
Well,
of
it was the last
rolling
patch
it
he
back.
got. They gave a ratio to this ability.
Dialing it in some, I guess. But yeah, I definitely see him not a ton of health coming in, throw the standard, jump to the standard, stab, stab, you know, try to delete some backline support character.
Yeah, I just see Duskblade on him now, and people just play him like Talon. He just plays
Yeah,
just like Talon now. So,
less wall jumps.
okie dokie. Next up, we got Jax. They decided to cut back on some of the cheese, and when they first reworked his ultimate and his E, I suspected that people would actually be playing him support to take advantage of like new levels of AP ratios on his E and ultimate. For some reason, that never came to fruition. Although I'm sure some people in Korea were definitely trying it.
Oh, yeah, somebody worked
it's,
on it.
It's too cheesy to not do. But now this is actually probably better for his conventional like bruiser builds. Now that he doesn't like scale a ton with AP, but now the flat amount just increases when you get wailed on.
Sure.
So that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's all like makes sense. None of it's and 100% AP ratio just on anything. Like we talked about the Alistair, it's like really like you're just offering trolls the opportunity to like justify what they're doing. It's like it's still not going to work, but they're gonna be like, I have 100%. It's going to be great. I deleted one
Yeah.
person the entire game. Don't worry about it.
Oh no, it was insane burst. I did the AP Jax a couple times in an ARAM. You can absolutely delete people.
Mm.
Now it's gone, but it was fun for those 3 times I did it. Now, going up to his ultimate, I definitely do not like these changes. This is now the second or third time they've nerfed the on-hit magic damage on his ultimate.
Mhm.
And now it's getting into almost irrelevant, like, Wit's End territory here.
Yep.
Especially losing this much on his rank 1 ultimate is definitely, he's going to be feeling that, because, smaller numbers are more impactful earlier in the game when everyone's still doing, like, chip damage. So losing
Right.
20 damage off of his every 3 attacks is definitely going to be something he'll feel. And even more aggravating than that, him losing the resistances on his ultimate, I mean, it only lasts for 8 seconds, and it's like so he can't have can he just have those 8 seconds? No.
Well, and that's like very iconic to him, where it's like like Jax is gonna stop you from hurting him for a little bit, only focus him if he's the last one standing. But now it's like, you can just kill him now. It's cool. Just take him out. It seems strange. I don't know what the I didn't see Jax just running the show in any games I played. He's always somewhere in the middle, like does fine, sometimes does great, but
Yeah,
no
I
no
honestly
no
haven't
consistent
seen
pub
him
stomping.
even after his little mini rework. I just haven't seen. I think he's kind of become a bit unpopular in the wake of champions that are just more exciting and
Oh yeah,
flashy,
sure.
and the
I
age of guys that just auto attack and jump at stuff
jump on you. Yeah, I think
is
that
kind of over.
Jax. I think I would be willing to bet that a majority of his picks are just as the counter picks for the champs that he completely shits on. And then he does well, and then you're like, oh man, Jax is good. And it's like, oh wait, he like 5-0'd that dude in the first 20 minutes.
I don't
So
think he really shits on anyone early game. It's his like unrelenting aggravation in like this in the side lanes in the late game that is kind of his strength. He's
oh,
really bad early on. In fact, he has a lot of bad matchups early on.
he does have bad matchups, but if you counter pick, if they like the 80 carries top, like when people try that nonsense, if it's not one with a really good escape, um, then just get Jax to the face like level 3. But
Uh,
I don't know. It's also people playing bad, like
I
doing
don't
bad
actually
bad
think
dunking
that's
stuff.
very good because sure you'll do damage to them first, but the time you spend running back to your minion wave, they'll auto you so many times that you probably wish you didn't even go in.
Oh, when you jump on them, it's for the murder.
It's more of
It's
a
murder time.
Wukong thing,
Yeah, yeah.
which reminds me of this rank game I played the other day where I was like in the or I was in the champion select, and I'm like, this is one of those games that I know I should have dodged, but I'll play it anyway. And then 20 minutes after I lose this, I'll be like, yep, I'm dumb because I didn't
Hmm.
dodge. I had this top laner who was like hovering set, and then the enemy team picked Wukong, and then she switches to Quinn and gets promptly obliterated
Yeah,
very
yeah.
quickly. In like 5 minutes, she was like 0-4 or something. I'm
Hmm.
like, yep. I mean, I can only blame myself. I know a dodge when I see one. It's so stupid of me.
Maybe that's the real like mastery of League of Legends. It's not your
Yes,
playability; it's being able to dodge lobbies.
yes, that it. And
That's the true skill.
God gave you two dodges a game or a day before your thing gets too crazy. So
Yeah,
if you don't take advantage of them, you're just not gaming the system. You don't want it. You're not trying hard enough if you're not trying to
true.
dodge insanely dumb stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, ooh, so way down here to Malphite.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of these? These look pretty appetizing.
Yeah, I love Malphite, and he has a hard time in some matchups. I've tried to play him as support. It's okay. It's not great. Just because his Q, like the Rock, just doesn't do enough to disrupt the enemy team. Um, and then top lane, he definitely can get counterpicked and made sad. But I love Malphite, so any opportunity to play him makes me happy. So any buffs coming his way, I also approve of. I do not approve of AP Malphite. I don't care if Luden's Echo ult is cool. It's still dumb. So yeah,
Yeah,
go Malphite. Love the Rock.
I'm a big fan of the off tank Malphite as well,
Mhm.
which over a longer period of time will do way more damage than the AP version, which does
Sure.
absolutely nothing after you ult, basically.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a one trick. Try to delete the ready carry. Um, but as we've talked about, like the Triforce and then tank items, you can still delete the ready carry and then be relevant,
Yep.
and it's delightful. Delightful.
And you can still, with his passive and E, you can still have like 400 or 500 armor with Trinity Force
Oh yeah.
stuff.
And when you W proc Trinity Force, even like because the ult Trinity Force is funny,
Ouch!
but then like even the W, it's just like oh get dunked, like
Yeah, it's awesome.
math people.
Okay, next up we got Maokai, and I'm very happy to see any changes to Maokai. This change in particular to his Q is really going to help him top lane, where I'd like to see more of them. There's just too many other things that are just stop on his nuts, even though he has a lot of sustain with his passive. This is going to help him definitely trade better, even when he's not
Yeah.
building goofy
Um,
AP.
I read the reasoning in this one too, just because Maokai is near and dear to my heart, and that that he was supposed to be the sapling toss is supposed to be for vision and not for harassment of damage, and so they wanted to discourage people from being sapling AP Malphite or Maokai rather, and for the tank Maokais, the proper Maokais, giving the Q more strength, sort of gives you a break on whatever damage you might have lost on sapling. But the only time I really use sapling is when people are trying to get away or, priming the bush ahead of time to slow them. I never count on the damage. So, yeah, no, I support all changes
Well, I
this time
hope
around.
this is the final nail in the coffin to AP Malphite, but it probably won't be. And
It
maybe
won't be.
after these changes, he won't do 20% less damage and take 20% bonus damage in ARAM.
Mm-hmm.
Because he has one of the worst champion debuffs in ARAM because
Sure.
of sapling shenanigans.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's that good, honestly. Even in its heyday, when those things could chunk you, I don't even think it was that good.
No, I liked when if you threw it and it hit him, when it did extra damage.
Oh,
That
that is
was,
super long. That was when he had the old ultimate,
yeah.
where he put the
But
damage reduction field down.
yep. But
That
the
was so
old
much
sapling, because they
better.
were hard to throw, like to land
Man,
on someone. They flew very slowly, and so you felt like a champion when you hit like someone or maybe two someones with one sapling. You're just like
man,
they don't
I'd
burn.
trade his old ultimate for his current one instantly, man. His old ultimate was awesome.
I like the
And it
concept of
like
his new
detonated.
ultimate, but
It like detonated after it absorbed a certain amount of damage. You could turn it off
yep,
and it would blow up. That
oh
thing
yep,
was amazing.
it was real cool. The new ultimate, I like the idea, but it is the slowest to wind up and like the slowest moving thing ever. It's the you have to start your ult and then run around the corner and start a fight. So 10 seconds later, when the ult shows up, they didn't realize that you ulted from the base, 8
Yeah,
minutes earlier.
they need to just experiment and just make his current ultimate like ultimate stupid, just so it feels impactful for like a week or two. Just throw it out there. See,
Or make it way
make it
better and
fun.
make it 30 seconds longer cooldown. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm not spamming it. Like, it's like Shen's ult is dope, but you don't get to do it very often. Like, fair. People with, or, like a Galio ult, like, crazy ass long cooldown. It does crazy shit. Like, give me that.
Uh,
I'm in.
what they need to do is like you and your allies get like movement speed when you're running along the vines or something like that,
Sure, yeah.
or you all of you get like extra like 10-15% bonus like armor and MR when you're running through the vines
The divines, yeah.
together or
Like fighting the
something like
vines, yeah.
that, or
Or
like
if the vines left a field that, like,
yeah.
did that for like 5 seconds or something, yeah. That'd be cool.
Or they need to just have like an even more obnoxious like CC duration than like Ash's ultimate. If you get someone at the end, something
Ooh,
just
this far end of it. Oh
yeah.
yeah,
You get twigged by,
yeah,
you get like a 5 second stare or something.
sure. You're there all day. It's like, man, how could you get hit by the end of that ultimate?
Or that what they could do is if you get hit by his ultimate, his next Q has like an empowered effect against them, or his next W or something like that. They could
Sure, sure.
any of that stuff's better than his piss poor state.
Or maybe if like the ult hits you, then his W would get like double distance to like
Oh
grab
yeah, yeah,
let me come get you because you're in
that's
the
a good one.
vines and I'm native vines.
That's a good one. Yeah, that actually
Because
sounds more plausible than what I said.
I've hit people with that and they still got away. And it's like, cool, cool. I got one button that closes distances. Otherwise, I walk slow. I'm a tree. Like,
Or
see you guys
maybe
later.
if the
Peace
vines
out.
go over a sapling, the sapling just becomes like a
Oh, it
cocaine
becomes
sapling.
huge.
Like even
Yeah.
crazier than the crazier ones that we used
From
to
the
be with
bush. Yeah.
AP.
Right. It makes like five little ones that just run around. Yeah. Any of that, I'm in.
In fact, all of that would probably make
Yeah.
him
Yeah. All
val.
it's,
I don't
it's
even think he'd be broken with all of those things we just said.
nope.
He would just
Any of the
be
old champs.
he would just be competent. Anyway, stop dreaming; it'll never happen.
Yep.
Okay, next up we got Oriana. Let's skip that. Just some
Yeah.
nonsense. She always has like tons of mana.
Tiny tweaks always. Get that Oriana dialed in.
The only reason she has low armor is because when she has the ball attached, she has 10 more. So that's why she
Right.
has really low armor all the time.
Sure.
Okay, next up we got Riven, who's getting a little bit of love because nobody plays this champion ever. I actually have seen Elise more than I've seen Riven in the past several years. Riven is so outside of the meta right now, it's insane. You never ever ever see Riven, and she used to be so popular for so long.
Oh yeah. I will say I see a Riven every once in a while, and when I do, they're like the old Riven
Oh
player
yeah, it'll be the
that
God
knows
Riven.
every
Yeah.
wall, and like yeah, and you just watch them do crazy stuff. They have one bar left, and two full health enemies jump on them, and both enemies get deleted, and they end the fight with like more health than they started, and they were baiting them the whole time. And you're like, man, you played a lot of fucking Riven. I have not. So
Yeah,
it's
I
all
think
mystery to me.
she could still be snowballing. I think she's just so bad against like the tanks and bruisers of today that she just has such a hard time getting off the you know, getting off first base or whatever.
Sure.
But we got some buffs here where passive affects buildings. Not exactly what I wanted to say, but it's something she didn't have before.
Yeah.
And then we got some stuff for the low IQ players where they can, instead of looking at their action bar, they just look at their champ now so they can see how many stacks they have.
Yep.
Or you can just be aware that anytime you use an ability, you just get one.
Nope.
And then they couldn't even bother to give her like 5% more on her passive. But somehow this is better. Once you mouse over this, tell me how this is better. It says increased. 31. Oh, yeah, I see it. It increases every level instead of just at like breakpoints.
Oh, sure. But the breakpoints are still no. The breakpoints are a little higher. It just finishes it the same. Like 9's 44 instead of 9 being 42.
Oh.
Yeah, they're like 2% higher at the breakpoints and still caps at 60.
If they really want to help her, they should just make this 60% at all levels. I don't even think that would be too good.
No.
Okay.
It would make the God Rivens take over the world. So
it would make her Q really cheesy at level 1, but that's what every Riven that even still plays would do anyway. So
yeah.
Okay, next up we got Samira, another one of the cheese lords. And this, I actually like this change to her passive, but I don't like the change to her ultimate. And they were right to finally change this to her passive, whereas before she was always getting basically Ghost even at level 1 when she had max stacks. That was definitely too crazy at level 1. What they decided to do is give her even more movement speed eventually in the late game. But now she, actually gets a reasonable amount of movement speed for the point in the game she is. And make no mistakes, even having a 6% bonus is still going to make you threatening. Movement speed is outplay potential. Make no mistake about it.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So, movement speed is power. So this is definitely a good chance for her passive. Now I'll get down to her ultimate, and the whole point of this ultimate is it's supposed to heal her so much that she can actually survive using it instead of just using plain old auto attacks. So this did start at 100%, and then it was 75, and then it was 66. Now 100% was definitely ridiculous because I remember those days, because that was back when her ranged Q was also 100%, and that also got nerfed. But this is probably too much. I think 66 might have been just right. Maybe just round up, go to 70. Definitely not 100. I remember those days. Yeah, this is probably too weak now. She's basically forced to build Shield Bow and Bloodthirster as her first 2 items every game, no matter what she's playing against, just because of this interaction. Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I would say that when she has decent items, the ult makes it extremely hard to kill her. But if she's behind or maybe early, then it's just okay. You just avoid it. You just wait for, don't get caught in the middle of it and get tornadoed. Yeah, 66 to 50s. That's a pretty big chunk down.
Keep
I
in
will say I
mind
do
that
see.
they. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but keep in
I'll
mind.
say I just good.
I'm sorry. I said keep in mind they just increased, made it way easier to get to the 40% grievous wounds in the last patch too.
That is
Whereas
true.
before
That is
you'd
true.
have to get the legendary to get the 40%. Now you just sit on the $600 item.
Yeah.
So
So that's true. That's like a double reduction of lifesteal. I will say that Samira's overall do well though. I think her kit is good. Just as a if you don't look at the number changes, just her mechanics
it's stupid good.
Are super solid. So it's one of those. It's not like they took the worst AD carry and made that character worse.
I think she's the cheesiest AD carry in the game at
she's real good
at level 2 and just early game in general.
Yeah, I would say rarely, unless someone is just inept at the game, Samira's do well. It's not like, oh no, what are you doing? Why'd you pick Teemo? Yeah.
So you think this is good, bad, what?
I'll have to wait and see. Just because she is so good, I'm fine with it. But as you said, with the Grievous Wound change, it's probably not necessary because the Grievous Wounds is real. I build those items like gangbusters now. I liked them before. Now I just build them because why not? Why not build the 800 gold one?
Yeah. Okay, next up we got Senna. And I really like Senna, even though I don't play her much. I play her every chance I can in ARAM because I think she's fun. But then at the same time, I'm kind of a hypocrite. I'm like, well, I really enjoy playing her in ARAM, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, I would never play this champion in normals. She's like a lot of fun to play, and I love the way she scales with the mist and stuff, and how her range can get silly
Yeah.
and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun. Okay, but going directly to these changes, and it's just a big buff to her ultimate, which I am all too happy for, because I find the shielding component of this to be very lackluster. It's not even as strong as Locket, and Locket is fucking
Negligible.
pathetic.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very happy with a buff in the like damage department of this ability, because even the damage component, it honestly doesn't feel super impactful either. It's not even as strong as like Ezreal's or something like that. Now I know she's a support, and nobody has the balls to play her AD carry anymore because people know better. She takes way too long to get online now. You never see anyone trying to pull that shit anymore. So yeah, this is a really nice buff. I'm very happy to see this. Hopefully we'll see more cross the map stuff.
Yeah, I Senna's a super strong support because it's almost the double AD carry bot, like we talked about, but not quite because she actually has buttons that are support buttons. Um, I'm glad they only increased her ult because her ult, like when it goes off, I'm like, what happened? And I'm like, oh, nothing. All right, never mind. Continue. Because it always just seemed so uneventful when it happened. Like nothing changed in the game state or the team fight. So yeah, up the ult. The rest of her kit is real strong, so leave it alone.
The only thing I'd like to see is if the shield component of this ability scaled even harder with the mist than it does, because it's still very weak. It's super bad. Even at like max late game with like optimistically the most mist you can have probably is like 150-ish. Probably is the most common or number you get around to. Even with that, the shield component is like laughably weak.
It's terrible. Yeah.
I'm not saying it should be as strong as Shen since it's an AoE shield, but it's certainly should be better than like most shields in the game.
Yeah, especially because the field is limited based on, you're firing into a team fight.
Though the shield part is
anybody.
super wide, the damage component is really
Right,
thin in
it's
the middle.
narrow. Yeah. But I mean, still though, like you're not going to hit all your teammates unless it's a fight, like at Baron or somewhere like in a choke point. So you kind of have to choose. So yeah, stronger shield is fine.
I like how fast it moves across the map.
Yes.
Because it's like,
that is an upside.
It's global, but it's not instant, but it basically is like,
yeah, it's very quick.
Yeah, I love that. It's super cool. Okay, who's next? Okay, we got some. Now these are kind of like what we said with Alistar, except I don't think anything will come of the goofiness when it comes to Thresh, because his place in the legacy of League of Legends is very much secure. And yeah, this is people that play a lot of Thresh, and there's probably a lot of Thresh mains out there. They're just going to be drooling at this because it doesn't do anything to like hamper his current playstyle, really. And it's only going to make him just so much better while doing nothing, basically, because you were already going out of your way to collect the souls just for the flat armor, which also got buffed along with the AP per soul. And this, every soul gives you 1.5 AP now instead of just, I think it's 1 now instead of 3/4. It was 3/4 for a long time.
Okay.
But anyway, this is kind of like Cho'Gath. This is a lot of base damage, and traditionally through the years, he's always maxed Flay first for the on-hit magic damage on his auto attacks. But now, I mean, you're really going to have to do a double take on this silliness. Why were they at it, though? They also have been buffing Flay multiple times, because this thing did way less than 200 for quite ages.
Oh, yeah. It was just a movement tool. Right.
This buff to his Q is out of this world, and not only that, but they buff the cooldown on this. Keep in mind that if you land this, the cooldown goes down.
Yeah.
On top of this, so this with even a small amount of ability haste, he's going to be like chucking Qs nonstop, and they're going to be bringing the pain.
Oh yeah.
This got buffed last patch along with Flay as well.
Yeah. I'd like to submit that this only hurts more that a month or two ago we talked about Blitzcrank getting some love. Like he's so inferior compared to Thresh, and they have kind of the same button. Where it's like, I'm going to pick a dude in a team fight to start the team fight or mid-team fight or whatever. It's like, oh, all of Thresh's other buttons are phenomenal, and Blitzcrank may or may not even have other buttons. So, not confirmed. But yeah, Thresh is real good, and getting stronger is. I mean, I'm not like upset, but it's like
Uh,
I don't know if he needed. I don't know if he needed that
yeah,
much help.
this is a mind-blowing buff to Thresh, and
Hmm.
you see here there's a nerf to his W, but let's be real, that W shield was even more pathetic than Cena's
Oh
ultimate.
yeah. Oh, it's awful. Yeah.
It's a joke. Back in the old days, it would used to shield everyone around the lantern. Now
Yep.
they
If
a
you landed
long
on him.
time ago
Yep.
they specifically made it so it only shields the closest ally or Thresh
Hmm.
himself, both. But it
Hmm.
won't shield all your teammates anymore like it used to. But the
Uh,
utility, that's not even the utility of it. It's the movement that makes it powerful. The shield component is a complete joke
yeah. The
afterthought.
jump.
Plus, you can't even afford to max it first or second because that's just dumb. You're losing too much base damage to do something that goofy. It's a
Yeah.
playmaking ability, and it getting nerfed has like no bearing. Giving it an insane cooldown, not a big deal. I can't get over how much, and in a way, this is actually even more insane than Alistair's buff because he doesn't even have to do anything extra to access these buffs, where Alistair would have
AP
to
numbers.
build pure AP. He's just
Right.
going to go about his day and collect those 200 souls a game, and
Yeah. And continue to scale.
he's going to throw
Yeah.
out those 500 damage Qs. Oh, and it doesn't even say on here his ultimate is 1-for-1 with AP. So that's like
Yes. Yeah. Oh, it's a lot. Yeah. No,
yeah.
it's
So
if you don't have a lot of health, you're done.
this.
You get
I
stuck
used
in
to play a little Thresh in my day, and these make me like salivate over here. You know.
it. Bringing it back.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
thinking maybe a little Heartsteel. I know you onto that item. I'm pretty onto that item too recently.
oh yeah, no, I've built some other items just to check, and I always come back to Heartsteel. It's just, and I would like to submit that Heartsteel phenomenal. The noise Heartsteel makes also
Bonk.
excellent. So
Yes.
even other people's Heartsteels go off. I'm like, well played, other person who just
Yeah,
autoed.
it's fun when like 6 people have it and you don't even know. It's like bonk, bonk, bonk,
Yep,
you know, just like
Heartsteel party.
church bells falling down and shit or something.
Mhm.
Yeah. Anyway, I'd have to say I would give this the most impactful change of this patch for how much power Thresh already had,
Yeah,
and how this
yeah,
is
he wasn't
just
bad before.
this
Like
is
he
pretty
was,
much going to force you to max Q first now. This is, I
yeah,
mean, last patch he got a big buff to both of these abilities as well, and like look at the base number on this. It's 300
oh yeah,
also, and it's just insane, man.
crazy.
Maybe instead of like actually building a lot of health, maybe you just build a ton of get that like 120 ability haste, and then his Q is always up if you
Mhm.
land it. I mean,
Sure,
the possibilities are just ridiculous with this. I can't even believe they reduced the cooldown by that much. 2 seconds?
that's a lot.
Yeah, that's crazy. That means it's always going to be at least 7 if you land it.
Mhm.
And if you cut that with an ability haste, you get it down to like 3.
Yeah. Well, it's also
Okay.
like when you land it, it sticks on you for a really long time. Like when you get hit, it's not just like a blitz grab or a nautilus grab. It's like, no, 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 you stand like an idiot, like until he chooses, which pull to do, whatever. Like you get stuck, you get rooted for quite a while. It's very disappointing. Continue.
I think we've gushed about enough. What do you think about these changes, though? Is this too much? Is it just right? Does he deserve this for being a cornerstone of League of Legends?
He's rewarded for being a pillar of the
Yeah.
league game community. I don't think he needed any of it. I thought he was strong and reliable as he was. Um, Maybe in the pro scene he's not, but those are some serious buffs across the board. Like not situational, not quality of life. They're just like, oh, this dude just got way stronger. Like, cool. Sorry about your life, Blitzcrank.
All right. Who's next? We got coming to the end here. We got Udyr, which has been receiving tiny nerfs ever since his rework.
Mhm.
Feels like every patch they're like Tiger's too strong. Oh no, Phoenix is too strong. No, Tiger's too strong. Phoenix is too strong. I feel like that's what I've heard over and over and over, and that's probably what they'll continue to do since they have to compulsively change things, in my opinion.
Yeah.
This is probably if he was going to get a nerf, this would probably be the best way he could get it. The on hit AD that his Q gets is pretty much insignificant compared to the massive health shred that his Q and Super Q have.
Hmm.
So this is the on hit damage was nice, but that bonus on hit damage doesn't fact. He doesn't get the damage. It's on hit like Wit's End, so the extra damage you get doesn't factor back into the AD ratio. And if that
Hmm.
was the case, whew, that would be stank nasty, but it doesn't. So
Yeah. Yeah.
this is more in line with his old Tiger, and that's probably why they gave it to him to begin with, as a throwback to old Tiger.
Sure.
And as far as his Phoenix goes, the fact that this ability slows his all is absolutely beyond busted. So
Mhm.
even a 20% slow, if it never got any stronger than that, it would still be busted.
Oh yeah, yeah. You don't get away from Udyr whether he slows you or not. Like the dude sprints,
Yeah.
as fast as Rammus Ball. So
No, I
um,
wouldn't go that far. Come on.
Udyr's so goddamn fast.
It's
Yeah, like he doesn't need to
fast.
slow you. He just happens to slow you. It's like, oh well, cool. That way I don't try to run, and embarrass myself
He's fast, but only lasts for like 2 seconds or something.
long enough. Long enough, sir.
But yeah, I think, like you said, even if this was only 20 and it didn't scale, it would still be insanely powerful for something he did
Yeah.
not have before. Okay, and then we got a very juicy change to an oldie, Viger, who just got a straight up buff to the range on his two abilities here, the Comet and the Q. And this is really going to help him farm more safely with his Q in the laning phase, and it's going to make him much harder to interact with. I feel like the buff to Dark Matter is nowhere near as important as the buff to Baleful Strike, because
Oh yeah.
Dark Matters is really only significant if you already have the cage on them.
Right.
And if I'm not mistaken, I'm thinking this in like my brain, this range buff is already kind of a lot further than the max range he can cast the cage from, so it kind of is insignificant. I feel like the Q
Yeah.
change is much nicer because it's not a lock on like it used to be in the old days. It'll just hit the first two things now. In the old
Right.
days, you could only lock on and hit one thing at a time. Now, and it's super fast. They keep changing the projectile speed. That thing comes out like a fucking bullet now.
Oh
His
yeah,
Q-
you can't dodge it. No, he just hits you with
yeah,
it.
it's
Either hits
fast.
you or doesn't.
Yeah, it's faster
Yeah.
than Ezreal's Q. I think a little bit even.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like this is really going to help his like kind of trading potential ish. Not
Oh
that he
yeah.
really
And
wants
I
to
mean
even
like
do that. in
Vygar,
lane.
like the cage is cool, but like his Q is his kit. Like it's I use this to farm and then I use it to delete people. Like so getting more range, like strong. And Vygar, not the strongest champ currently, I don't think. So
Uh,
it's assassined pretty hard.
I feel like there's a few champs that infinitely scale that time has been really cruel to, and I feel
Mhm.
like there's a few champs infinitely scale that now have less and less bad matchups and get crazier faster and faster. And I think Nasus and Viger are two of those latter champs, where Nasus basically almost has no bad matchups anymore because he scales so fast.
Yeah.
And Viger, I feel like as history has gone on, they've made his passive scale quicker and quicker and quicker. And the old days, you only got AP if you last hit something with your Q or you got a takedown. Now you get
Right.
AP just by damaging anything at any time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any champion, I mean, that is. And did I say damage? No. You also get AP just for caging them.
Right.
So
Oh yeah, yeah, no.
it's
They have
really good.
helped them out. Yeah, no, it used to be super hard. Yeah, it was Q or I think Dark Matter could also
No,
farm
it
it
had to be a
last hit.
takedown or your Q.
But yeah, he's yeah. I mean, the range we'll see. I don't know if it'll make a game breaking differences, but it's good. Like I said, his Q is his kit, so it's the heart and soul of Vygar.
Yeah, I feel like if they were gonna do this, it'd be cool if they like reduced the cooldown in his Q by like 1 second at all ranks too, just to kind of index
Okay.
into the silliness.
That seems a bit much.
It's not
The Q,
super. It's not super low. I think it might be okay. He doesn't tend to build a lot of cooldown reduction because he just doesn't need it.
No, but when that Q hits you, it makes you very sad if you don't have a lot of MR and a lot of health. So
That's the
yeah, I don't wanna
weakest
get-
part
I
of
don't
his
wanna get-
kit.
I don't want to get hit 5 times a fight. Reason enough.
Okay, next up we got Viego, and this is actually a pretty powerful buff what we're seeing here. Now his Q, I don't know if you know a ton about Viego, Nate, since not a lot of people play him and you don't see him a lot, despite him being one of the best champs in the game, in my opinion.
I see him, and so I have a vague understanding of like what he's going to do, but I've never played as him, so
Well, not
some
long
mysteries.
after he came out, I was trying to pick him up top for a while, but then I kind of stumbled onto something really niche and like cheap, so I was abusing him top for a while. And then 3 separate times they nerfed the sustain he gets off his Q versus minions. It was an absolutely busted 100%, and I was living like a king up there because he like beats everyone early game, even like the cheese lords like Aurelia and Darius and stuff. He beats everyone up there. So I was like, man, this is heaven. And then someone caught on and they nerfed the healing versus minions versus 50%. And I'm like, okay, it's not ridiculous, but it's still really good. And then guess what happened? Then they made it 15% and then 5.
Well,
5.
you might as well make it 0. Yeah, five's just
And keep in mind, when it was 50% for like a year, it only healed them for like 8 to 12. So
Sure.
now at like 5%, it heals them for like
one.
one or
And it
two hit
rounds up to
points.
1.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's only like a very small percentage of his total AD anyway.
Mhm.
Okay, so basically what this does is whenever he Qs you or Ws you, if he auto attacks you, he always auto attacks a second time, and that is what this it will now be able to critically strike. And if he hits you with an auto attack, his second auto attack will always hit you no matter what. So there's really no way of interacting with this. So this is really just a straight up huge buff to his kit. It'll just make the minor damage crit 2, which is essentially like him hitting you 3 times, is basically, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so this is way more effective against champions than it is against minions and monsters. So this is actually a huge buff. And he can proc it like many times. So this is going to be... I don't really think the crit builds are as fun. I like going like Sunder or Bork and then like straight tank and stuff like that. I see a lot of people, they just go like 100% crit and stuff.
Yep.
I'm like,
Yeah, I could say it both ways, I guess.
And then this buff to his ultimate's definitely very nice. This is the percent of like missing health damage it does. Doesn't say that, but this is what that ratio is how much missing health damage it does.
Okay.
And it used to do like 15 to 25. Now it's like 12 to 18, but this will pretty much put it back in line with like 15 to 25 once again.
That's strong.
And it was strong then, yeah, it's very strong. And much like Pyke's ultimate, it's just so damn fast, it's hard to even react to it even when you know it's coming.
It doesn't matter, yeah.
It doesn't matter. Even I can't tell you how many times I'm like, Chris, I've been playing this game for 13 years. When Pyke tries to ult me, I'll flash out of it. Nope, too fast.
No, don't.
And you even know it's coming, and it's like, nope, too fast.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone's ever intentionally dodged Pyke's ultimate. Like, I think you're just like, yeah, I meant to, and you're just like, no, I had no idea. Like,
it's too fast.
I just happened to dash or flash out of the way. Like, what?
Yeah. Anyway, so I don't know if that's good for him. The thing with his ultimate, that's fine. That ability was always strong. But giving his passive, like, guaranteed, like, critting now when his auto attack crit, or when his regular attack will also crit, is very strong. It's probably also going to encourage people to not build him the way I do, which is kind of more conservative. Yeah, so this is going to...
Free crits, yeah, it's just a banner marquee for people to build those dumb crit items.
I don't think they're dumb. I just don't think you should get like the 80, 100% crit stuff, because yeah, he blows people's like socks off with that shit, but I don't know. He's so glass cannony, and he's just... I don't really think of him like that. I think of him more like a bruiser.
I see him mostly in the jungle, so he just shows up.
Oh yeah, you can't play him top anymore. He was only fun when he had mad sustain.
So he just shows up. Usually has not a lot of health, but the old life steal.
I was telling you, man, I was killing it that like 2 or 3 months top, man. It was awesome. You could take like horrible trades, and then when the minions come back to you, you could come back to your tower.
Refill.
Yeah, you just you get 200 like health back like each minion wave, and you basically you could just Q his Q is like a line skill shot, like, right? You know how his Q works? Yeah, so you could tag like multiple minions with that, and you're like bunk 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 bunk, not just the first one. And man, those were the days. I guess it was busted.
may or may not have been unfair.
I think 100% was busted, but the 50% they kept it like that for a year, and I was like, this is fair. I mean, it's only like 10, 12 hit points or something. Now 5%, why bother? You know.
Just to remind you that it used to be a thing. Just to let you know.
I don't even know why they didn't let you do it at 5%. It's worse than fleet footwork if something's possible.
Yeah, round up to 1.
All right, that does it for... Yeah, that does it for the champs. Now we got some goofy item changes here. Not really much to write home about. We got some... I gotta be honest, since they added the whole pet thing to the jungle, I've only jungled a couple times, and I try to ignore the pet mechanic as much as I can and just pretend like it's the old days.
Yeah.
Play something like mindless, like Jax, Jarvan jungle, Skarner, things I kind of like. Hecarim. But what do we got here? This is this a buff?
Yes. The damage ratio reduced, but the heal increased. So I guess it breaks even. Although for me, as we've talked about, the jungle is so like the challenge of the jungle is not you versus the jungle mobs. It's you being in the right place at the right time, you showing up to lanes not like an idiot, you clearing vision. And so anytime they mess with the mechanics of like, man, you're gonna fight these jungle mobs and it's gonna be different. It's like, who gives a shit? Like gone are the days of shirt and 5 health pots and dying to the second camp because you picked a champ that cannot jungle or you weren't good at the old Graves pushback with the shotgun
Well, even
and
that
not
was
getting
much
punched.
later.
Yeah. But yeah, like the anytime it's like, the jungle camps, like man, those are not the threat of this game. Like I don't know who's like struggling. It's like, man,
Whew.
we need to really figure out how to affect the jungle camp
Man, those were the
routes.
days. There was only like 6 champs that could jungle back then.
Oh yeah, and you need
It's
a
like
lot of help. It's
Warwick,
hard.
Zin, Nunu's, Fiddlesticks. That was like it.
Cho'Gath.
Yeah,
Yep.
maybe Cho. Yeah, because his passive.
It was passive. Yep, the only reason.
Oh, those were the days. The old cloth armor and 5 pots, man.
So hard. So goddamn hard. And everyone blamed you, and you're like, man, none of you volunteered to jungle. Like, lock it up.
People blame you then, man. That's all you ever hear these days is everyone blame the jungler every single game.
Well, yeah. No one wants to take responsibility for being bad and losing lane. So
Okay, next up, we got a pretty goofy nerf to Doran Shield. I feel like this is a pretty important item to not get nerfed because you only buy it for one reason. And you either don't have the balls to take Doran's Blade, or you're just playing something that doesn't need the damage. Either way,
yep.
I feel like, I don't know, this is just stupid.
Yeah, it's almost pushing you into the corrupting potion. It's like, oh, just forget Doran Shields exist. Just buy corrupting potion and it refills every time you go back. It'll be great.
Yeah, you're right. I
Like
I don't really buy that a lot. Nah, I don't really see people buy that a lot either. Because even corrupting potion's been nerfed a couple times.
it's true. And anytime I see corrupting potion, I know it's a try hard that I'm up against. They're gonna try to like all in level to me. So yeah, I still build Doran Shield, but this makes me sad that they made an item that is maybe the least interesting item in all of League of Legends, like less good.
Yeah, that's sad. Doesn't even say anything to its passive effect that's also been nerfed like 3 times.
The punking minions
No, when
or
you take
the,
when you
the
take
regen.
yeah, when you take damage, it heals you
Okay.
based on your missing life,
Yeah.
and then it's even shittier for ranged champions
Right.
because AD carries were like taking it one season.
hmm hmm Remember that?
Okay, now we got some goofy mana regen for some of the support items. Is this supposed to mean something for the meta or something?
I do know that as a support, the Frost Fang, like if you had that support item, you never run out of mana. Versus when I play similar champs mid, um, so I understand. Like I don't mind. Um, and the tribute recharge, I will submit as someone who has played a fair amount of brand support in the last 12 months. It is just painfully easy to max out the support item money off of Frostfang compared to when I have to play a tanky champ and punch cannon minions and melee minions for maximum money. That I can have the brand one done almost immediately. Like the first time I back, it's already done. Whereas the melee bruiser champs, where I have to punch the minions, takes at least twice as long. So I support that. Change the tribute recharge for sure.
All right, if you say so.
It's like insulting. I thought that for the last few months. I'm like, man, it is insulting how easy it is. And you just auto. Like some of the champs, like Lux just come over and like autos you when you're Nautilus, and you're like, oh, I'm not gonna get hit with your dumb skill shots. I'll just get your free money for your stupid long auto range. I don't know. It's annoying.
I feel like very
Just
few
very.
champions ever run out of mana anymore.
Oh, I don't know.
I feel like you have to be one of the one where mana is like their thing, like a Nivea or something, to like run out of mana.
Yeah. As Jason and I have talked about, running out of mana with Leona, real.
You
Um,
know, I've played a lot of Leona. I don't feel like that's a huge deal either. I
extended
guess
fights, it
I
definitely happens.
feel like I'm just a much more conservative player. I just feel like I don't spam as hard as most people
Mm.
and stuff. I like
I don't even
Leona.
throw saplings, and I run out of mana on Maokai as well.
I can
But
see that. So he can fight for longer and stuff.
yeah, WQs, whatever, like well, yeah, extended fights around Dragon or something. And you're just like, oh, I don't have any mana, so I'm just gonna like punch and try to walk away, like call it good.
All right. We'll skip past all these regen and whatever buffs, nerfs. All
Mm.
right, let's go to the most important change of the patch here, and that's Treasure Hunter. And now I'm glad that this got nerfed because I'm tired of the only reason I lose lane is because one of us has Treasure Hunter and one of us doesn't. I'm
Mm-hmm.
glad that this got changed so there's more at play and more variables in the game than just who's running Treasure Hunter.
What is in that row that competes against Treasure Hunter?
Ingenious Hunter, Ultimate Hunter, and
Okay,
Relentless Hunter.
okay. I think I Ultimate Hunter.
And it
As a
used to be Ravenous Hunter. That's what this
Yep.
replaced, which was way
Right.
better.
Yep.
Anyway, I was joking about that whole rant. Nobody takes this; it's garbage. I don't know why
No,
it
it's
got
terrible.
nerfed.
Yeah, it's terrible. That's why when you saw it, I was just like, oh man, like Treasure Hunter, like what is this competing? Like what could I have chosen? Oh, Ultimate Hunter, delightful. It's so good.
Yep, that's what I take most of the time.
Yeah.
What would you like to see? Since they nerfed this, I assume we're not going to see a big buff anytime soon. Do you think it'll just get replaced by another one?
Probably. Can't imagine. Yeah, anytime they give extra gold for kills or extra gold for things, that seems to imbalance. Makes the snowball more snowball.
Even if it's
So
like a Doran's Blade worth of gold? I'm going to agree with you if this thing gave like 1,500 over like 5 stacks.
yeah, I don't know. I think it's just hard to balance it. Like they probably don't want to have to keep, tweaking it for the lowest elo versus the highest elo. How impactful is that money to people who like, never miss minions versus people who are trash at farming? Um, I don't know. Maybe it's just too much of a pain to keep fair at all levels. But yeah, 550 is not a ton of money if you've gotten assist or kill on every single champ on their team. But who knows? Ultimate Hunter's the jam. Just take it out there. Anyone wondering? New players? If you're in that row.
I bet you they'll just bring back Ravenous Hunter, but they'll just gate it behind more situational sustain. Like it will no longer be Omnivamp. They'll just say it's like
Auto attack lifesteal.
only spell vamp, only physical vamp, only lifesteal. They probably won't do lifesteal.
Adaptive vamp.
Yeah, there you go. Adaptive. It can't be both.
Adaptive vamp.
Yeah.
That seems fair.
They'll do something like that. And then since 5% was too busted, because it was 9 at one point, and then they nerfed it 76 times until it got down to 5, and then they took it out of the game. Probably 4.5. Then
just to let you know, it's not 5. It won't even say 4.5. It'll just say not 5. Not 5%.
Because 5 is problematic. Yeah.
It's like, not 5. You heard us. Not 5. Okay.
All right. Let's see. And then our last one is a change to Gromp. And
I know we talked about how hard the
Gromp
jungle
was
route
too
is and
tanky.
how difficult it is to kill those monsters with all the help they've given. So thank God they have made it
You know what?
easier to run the jungle route.
I kind of forget this is even in the game because this was like the last camp they added to the game, I think, right? There was never a camp in that position for like 10 years, right?
Yes, that's correct. It was
Yeah.
the last camp added.
Yeah, so
Yes.
I think they should do something special with this. And here's my idea. Since it's like some fat bastard frog, here's my idea.
Okay.
You don't kill it on like your first route, and here's how it works. The longer it stays up, the more gold it's worth. And you can tell by like a buff over its head or by clicking on it and seeing its stats display, and it just says a number. Like it starts on, I don't know how much this gives by default. What is it, like probably 45 gold or something? What does it give by default? Maybe it's 50,
Something
60,
like
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so every minute that this stays up, it goes up by like 10 or 15 or 20 or something. And then not only would it make invading really juicy because you'd want to come get like the fat Gromp, but it would also be like kind of a selfless thing where your jungler would be like, well, I'm going to keep my Gromp warded so when he gets nice and plump, I can donate it to my AD carrier or my mid laner or something.
No junglers doing that.
Or my top.
Um,
Well, I'm just saying,
so
what it would. The important thing to note is it would
that up.
need. It would need to scale much faster in the plumpness gold reward than it would be currently right now for killing it, respawning, and stuff like that. So it would need to grow on a curve that's like at least like 30 or 40% better than it does right now.
Yeah, I like that concept, but I think you would just invade and take their Gromp to not risk them getting money, just to screw them, even if it was juicy or not.
But
Not
what if
just
it
keep
also
resetting it.
got what if it also got fatter though, and it was harder? It took longer to down.
Took longer.
Even if it did next to no damage, it was just a time investment to get it down.
Time
though.
sink.
So you'd have to invade them for like a full like 30, 40 seconds or something to get
Well,
it
Chris,
down.
that sounds like it would make the jungle route more complicated.
Mini objective.
And we are in the business of making it linear. Soon the jungle will just be a straight line that goes between the 3 lanes, and there won't be any of the little areas or alcoves. There'll just be a line of monsters, and you'll just like Ivern click them, and they'll just like submit to you and give you money.
You are so right. I was telling Jason the other day that eventually they'll just take items out of the game and do what World of Warcraft did, where as soon as you level up, it'll just be in your inventory. You'll just have the
Sure.
skill, you'll just have the item, you'll have the stats. You won't
You'll
have
pick,
to
you'll
do
pick like
anything.
one of two. It'll be like, do you want the tanky one? Do you want the damage one? Do you want the tanky one? Do you want
No,
do you want the...
I don't think they'll want to give younger people that decision because it'll be too complicated and stressful. They'll want to just be like, well, here you go, you're a tank.
You see, you picked a tank champ.
Yes.
Click on this button, and we'll pause the game for everyone so you can read what a tank champ is. Yeah.
It'll be like Heroes of the Storm, but even less effort,
Oh God, don't get me started on Here's the Storm.
which I would say is, I feel like you're looking into the future of League of Legends playing Heroes of the Storm because that game is like so divorced from like the kind of egocentric gameplay of like League of Legends.
Sure, or just the micro skill, like the you don't have to last hit is bananas.
I don't even have a level. My team has a level. It's like,
It's not the best.
yeah, anyway, so I think it would just be cool because Gromp doesn't even do anything. So I thought it'd be cool if Gromp did something that the other camps don't do.
Something new.
Like the Krugs, they did the splitty thing and they've pulled back on that
Right.
a little. We got the big red and the big blue buff that go back to the Stone Age. And then we got our goofy Wraiths or Raptors. Didn't they used to be Wraiths? Ghosts or something?
Maybe. I think they were birds the whole time, as I remember.
Raptors? I swear they used to be Wraiths or Ghosts at one point. Anyway,
Oh
so
no, you're right. There were wraiths in the jungle somewhere, and it might have been that raptor camp.
I think they were in Twisted Tree Line, but
Yeah.
they were also in the Raptor camp.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you got your Raptors and your Merc Wolves or whatever. And then I think, what do you think, Gromp? If we were going in a direction where Gromp was supposed to stand out as some kind of smaller objective, what would you do to Gromp?
I would have Gromp give you a like 30-second buff that would incentivize you to gank a lane. So
Well,
something like
you'd have to gank
reduce
top or
damage
you'd
from
have to
champs.
gank bot.
Yeah, like reduce, or maybe you could try to get to mid, maybe. Long enough that like if you went straight from there to the lane, yeah, like a damage reduction from champs, or your lane partner does more damage. If you hit them, they take more damage from all of the sources. The kind of thing that would make the jungle route, incentivize, I'm ganking next, not just let me clear the jungle and then I'll see who's overextended and I might show up if I don't just ping dragon and leave.
Man, that sounds like something Riot would actually do. I like my kind of limited benevolence idea where some kind of jungler like, well, I am playing a tank. Why don't I let him get fat from my mage and my AD carry?
No one's ever going to do that. People hate each other. Even people who are friends playing the game together.
Well, that's like supposed to be the idea with Ivern, where he takes like he
Yeah,
leaves the thing for your
Things
friends.
the red buff.
Yeah.
How about if your Gromp makes it to 20 minutes, you win?
Okay, he gets so fat. Yeah.
He gets so fast, it's victory. Like, so eventually it's like the team fight at their Gromp. They're like, wait a minute, they haven't killed their Gromp yet. Oh God. Or not win, but you get like Elder Dragon buff level, like just like a terrifying buff to your party.
I think he should just get infinitely plump based on time. And it should be like an exponential growth, so it always curves faster than the current kill it, respawn amount of gold income. It would
How
be
about instead of the game win, he just like gets so fat that he has to leave the jungle and starts strolling down the lane like the Herald.
Nah,
that?
man, we can't step on the Herald's toes like that.
No.
We can't.
I like the idea of an alternate win condition that is super
Oh
bizarre.
no, we don't need alternate win conditions, man. We already got the crazy Elder Drakes blow your shit up thing.
Drake Souls.
Yeah. Well, not just the Drake souls, the Elder Drake's little execute crazy thing
Oh
it
yeah.
does.
Oh yeah.
All right, enough silliness. Any other stuff you want to say? That does it for 13.4.
No, I think that's long try. It's mostly just adjustments, and then Thresh began take of the world, but we'll see
Yeah,
how that goes for him.
we stayed on topic. Probably would have finished half an hour ago.
The topics weren't as spicy as last time. Don't have an Ace Hole rework to talk about.
Yeah, that was exciting. All right. Well, that does it for 13.4, and there is supposed to be a new champ coming out within the next. It might be the next patch. It might be the patch after that. His name's like, I don't even know if it's a dude or a guy. His name's like Milo or Milio or something like that. I have no
Okay.
idea. I don't even remember what type of champ it is. It might be the new support. I forget. It's not the new assassin because that's like a Darkin or something.
Mhm.
But that'll definitely be fun to talk about. I haven't seen any footage of its abilities yet, so I look forward to talking about that with you guys.
That'd be cool.
All right. We'll see you guys next time.